The boy was born a Roman citizen in Western Britain, late in the 4th century, when that region was under Roman control. Britain was part of the Roman Empire. Most accounts have his name at birth as Maewyn Succat. Maewyn Succat. His father, Calpurnius, was a deacon in the church and also an army officer and or member of the local senate. So he had stature in the community and at least upper middle class. Maewyn Succat was not born into a poor family. The fact that his father, Calpurnius, was likely named after Julius Caesar's third and final wife, Calpurnia, suggests that the family was doing everything politically correct to be successful and move upward in the Roman Empire. Calpurnius' father, Potitus, easy for me to say, Potitus, was possibly named after Saint Potitus, a 2nd century Christian martyr. Maewyn's grandfather was a Roman Catholic priest. So, even though Maewyn Succat came from a line of priest and deacon, he really was not a believer. And his life was pretty uneventful until age 16. At age 16, he was captured, along with others, by Irish pirates and taken to Ireland and sold as a slave. Now, to use the term pirates might falsely give an impression of a small group, with one boat led by Captain Jack Sparrow or something. But the reality is that these pirates were likely part of a much larger group, even like an army under the direction of a political monarch in Southern Ireland. Very organized state operation that continued on a regular basis, raiding Britain for many years. Now, at that time, the island that we call Ireland was mainly run by and filled with warlords and pagan druids worshiping gods and offering sacrifices, including human sacrifices. Well, our boy was sold as a slave and forced to tend animals, a shepherd of sheep and pigs in Northern Ireland, very likely right here in that area. He was kept there, working as a slave for 6 years before an opportunity came along for him to escape. During those 6 years, his faith grew. He drew closer to God while he was there in captivity for 6 years. And during that time, he had dreams. You might call visions even. One dream is that he would in fact return to his family. Another dream came that his boat was ready. And shortly after that dream, the opportunity came for him to escape. He walked 200 miles to the seaport, found a boat he could stow away on, and eventually arrived back on British land. He then walked 28 days to get back to his home. Now at age 22. A couple of years after finally arriving home, he had another dream. This dream was of an Irishman delivering letters to him. To put it in his words, from his writings, I saw a man coming as if it were from Ireland. His name was Victoricus, and he carried many letters, and he gave me one of them. I read the heading, The Voice of the Irish. As I began the letter, I imagined in that moment that I heard the voice of those people who were near the wood of Falkland, which is beside the Western Sea. And they cried out as with one voice, We appeal to you, holy servant boy, to come and walk with us. Well, this calling was not of his desire. This wasn't his idea. But it was so strong that he began religious training, which included studies in France for 12 years. After ordination, the Pope sent him back to Ireland as a bishop. And it was at this time that he began using the name Patricius. Patricius, which comes from Latin meaning father figure. The Pope gave Patricius 2 assignments. 1, minister to the few Christians who were in Ireland at the time. And 2, convert the pagan Irish to Christianity. He was to convert and baptize in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit. In other words, today's message, as Ann figured out a few minutes ago, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit in Irish. His mission wasn't complicated. It was simply following Jesus' last words before he ascended, which are from Matthew 28, beginning with the 19th verse. Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you. And surely I am with you always to the very end of the age. The word of the Lord. It wasn't complicated, but it wasn't easy. It was not all smooth sledding. He wrote that at once he was beaten, robbed, and put in chains. At one point, he writes that he was held captive for 60 days. That was not an easy assignment. Not an easy appointment at all. Before his death on March 17th, his writings confirmed that he baptized thousands of people and ordained priests there to lead new Christian communities throughout the island. Over the thousands of years since Patricius's death, or Patrick as we English say, many legends of Patrick have grown. Legend versus fact. number 1. Legend tells us that Patrick banished snakes from Ireland. Well, the reality is that post-glacial Ireland never had snakes. The legend, however, probably grew out of reference to the pagans' worship and the practice of the Druids at the time. So as Patrick brought Christianity in and the pagan worship and Druids disappeared, he kind of drove snakes from the island. And even in the creation story, evil is represented by what? Serpent. Yeah? Legend versus fact number 2. Patrick introduced Christianity to Ireland. No. Fact is, his predecessor, Palladius, first took the good news to the pagan communities a couple of decades before. And those were the few communities that the Pope told Patrick to minister to when he was appointed there. Now, Patrick did travel all over the island, from coast to coast to coast to coast. And by the time of his death, had converted almost the entire population. Legend versus fact number 3. Legend tells us that Patrick used a 3-leaf sprig called a shamrock to explain the Holy Trinity. Now that may be true. We don't know for sure, but the likelihood that Patrick used a 3-leaf clover, which is what we often associate with him, that's probably unlikely. There are many plants referred to as shamrocks. Even one that has triangular leaves and purple instead of green. Friends gave my wife and I one of these plants when our son Ryan was born. This is called the purple shamrock. And it's really pretty neat when those triangular leaves fold down and then unfold again. So I don't know if it does that naturally or if it was because I just wasn't watering it enough and it would wilt and then come back. But they would do that. It was pretty cool. Now for some St. Patrick's Day trivia. Trivia number 1. Until the 18th century, St. Patrick's Day was a Roman Catholic feast only observed in Ireland. It was a religious holiday and pubs were closed. So there was no green beer in Ireland on St. Patrick's Day. It was the Irish immigrants living in the United States who began organizing parades and events on March 17th to show cultural pride. Yesterday, Saturday the 16th, was the 258th St. Patrick's Day parade in New York City. The first St. Patrick's Day parade occurred in 1762. 14 years before the Declaration of Independence. There are now parades around the world, including things going on the Saturday before, such as the Snake Saturday Parade in North Kansas City. Today, all kinds of things go green. The Chicago River goes green. The White House fountain goes green. And of course, fountains in the city of fountains. Go green. St. Patrick's Day trivia number 2. St. Patrick designed and spread around Ireland a particular style of Christian cross, now called the Celtic cross. It has a circle around the center. Now, it is believed that Patrick used this strategy to connect better with the pagans that were worshiping other gods, such as the sun god. With this, Patrick explained, sun, yes, but that's S-O-N that gives the true light. St. Patrick's Day trivia number 3. And this is our closing point today, and it's maybe the most amazing of them all. St. Patrick's Day is celebrated now around the world. It's celebrated as St. Patrick's Week in Buenos Aires for a full week in Argentina. It's celebrated in Islamic countries such as Turkey and the United Arab Emirates. So think about this. On St. Patrick's Day, even atheists around the world celebrate this 5th century bishop spreading Christianity. That's pretty amazing. We always close with a prayer. But today, I'm going to use the prayer of St. Patrick, which actually appears in the United Methodist Book of Worship, not hymnal, but Book of Worship, number 59. Let's pray. Christ be with us. Christ before us. Christ behind us. Christ in us. Christ beneath us. Christ above us. Christ on our right. Christ on our left. Christ where we lie. Christ where we sit. Christ where we arise. Christ in the heart of everyone who thinks of us. Christ in every eye that sees us. Christ in every ear that hears us. Salvation is of the Lord. Salvation is of the Christ. May your salvation, O Lord, be ever with us. And all God's people said, Amen.